As one of the largest GAs in the country, Arrowhead has program management down to a science. Find formulas for success at arrowheadgrp.com/science.
It has been a complicated and involved process for carriers to get data breach and security policies to where they are today, says Michael Carr, Senior Vice President, E&O Underwriting for Argo Pro. At the Plus Annual Convention in Chicago, Carr spoke with MyNewMarkets.com Associate Editor Amy O'Connor about the comprehensive underwriting these policies require and how the industry is responding to insureds' ever-changing privacy and security insurance needs.
There's a lot of information that goes into thoroughly underwriting these kind of placements, and often needs to come from disparate parts of the company, so some of it needs to come from IT. There's a lot of sort of procedure or culture information that may have to come from some combination of legal and human resources. So it's a fairly involved process, and that can be a challenge. Helping your clients understand why people like me want to know that stuff can be a challenge. The other big challenge is just people understanding what coverages they currently have and what exposures they currently have and where the gaps are. So we talked a lot this morning about professional liability, and you can have situations where your professional services include a duty to maintain confidential records, but not every privacy event in your business is necessarily going to involve a professional. And more importantly, a liability policy is a liability policy, and all of that first-party stuff, the notice, regulatory, credit monitoring, et cetera, is outside what a liability policy is ever going to respond to. And then the last thing I'd say is, there are some folks who have, I think, a false sense of security, particularly people who outsource a lot of these functions. They say, okay, I've given it to this vendor or I've put it in the cloud, it's somebody else's problem. Legally speaking, it's not. You can't transfer away your duty to your clients or patients. And you have to look carefully at, if I've entrusted the data to somebody over here, what's their security like? Who are they handing the data off to? What does their contract say they owe me as a duty? Because frequently it's whatever your fees were for the last 6 months to a year. And if they are contractually offering you indemnification, do they have the balance sheet to back that up? So those are all things that I think producers have to wrestle with, and we can help educate producers about what those issues are, but at the end of the day, they get to have the conversations with the clients and sort those things out. It has evolved in kind of an interesting way. I mean, way back, it was sort of a sister of tech E&O. And the first thing that anybody seemed concerned about was the whole media exposure with websites. And so a lot of the early cyber coverage was really web media coverage. And then we got into looking at the security perils. So what would happen if somebody hacked you? And as what we found is that's only a piece of the issue with data privacy and confidentiality. Yes, you may be hacked, but you also may have an employee who's busy downloading stuff onto a flash drive and selling it after work. You may have somebody who accidentally mails out thousands of statements with other clients' information on them. And so as an industry, as we've started to wrestle with these exposures, we've begun to figure out that clients need more coverage than we were originally offering. And I think as an industry, we can feel pretty good about the fact that this coverage has not stayed still yet. You're seeing things like fine and penalty coverage go from unavailable to sublimits to available at pretty high sublimits or full limits in a lot of programs now. And that's all been within the last couple of years.